Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive upheaval in U.S. immigration, the incredibly stressful 2026 H-1B changes. For years, the H-1B visa was basically the gold standard for skilled professionals wanting to build a life and a career in the States. But right now, the landscape is shifting dramatically under our feet. So we're going to explore exactly what these new rules mean for you. And then we'll dive into an empowering, though definitely rigorous, alternative, the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover 1. The 2026 H-1B crisis. 2. Structural flaws. 3. The EB-5 alternative. 4. An H-1B versus EB-5 showdown. And finally, 5. The process and risks. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The 2026 H-1B crisis. Harder, costlier, and way more uncertain. Let's look at the numbers actually driving this sudden shift.
Okay, let's talk about the sheer shock value of the new rules, because it starts with a jaw-dropping $100,000 supplemental fee for new H-1B petitions that require consular processing. Now, there is a silver lining for some. F-1 students who are already inside the U.S. are actually exempt from this, but for international hires, sponsorship costs have literally skyrocketed, and while this is technically scheduled to expire in September 2026, it has survived court challenges so far, which is absolutely making employers think twice before sponsoring overseas talent.
But wait, costs aren't the only hurdle here. Effective February 2026, the old random lottery draw that we all know is completely gone. It's being entirely replaced by a wage-weighted selection system. So what does that mean? Well, if you're offered a level 4 expert wage, you now have a 4 times greater chance of being selected than someone at a level 1 entry-level wage. Employers paying top dollar are getting a massive statistical advantage, and that's leaving junior talent with much steeper odds than ever before.
Section 2. Structural flaws, the agitation. Let's see how these new rules are basically acting as a spark to a pre-existing powder keg.
The recent wave of tech layoffs really laid bare the absolute terror of the H-1B's 60-day grace period. Because this visa is 100% employer-dependent, losing your job starts a ticking clock. You have exactly 60 days to find a new sponsor, or you literally have to leave the country. Add in that new $100,000 lottery gamble for employers, and you're looking at a system fraught with extreme daily anxiety.
And then there's the waiting game. Because of per-country caps, your birth country dictates your wait time in the employment-based backlog. For Indian nationals, you're looking at a wait of 50 to 100 plus years for a green card. Yes, a century. For Chinese nationals, it's 5 to 15 years. Guys, these aren't just numbers. These are entire lifetimes put on hold, tethered indefinitely to a single sponsor.
So with rising costs, those agonizing wait times, and just total uncertainty across the board, it really begs the question, is there a path out there that doesn't rely on the luck of a wage-weighted draw or the continued goodwill of a single employer?
That brings us to Section 3, the EB-5 alternative, taking control. This is a potential solution that we're seeing many experienced professionals pivot toward right now.
Enter the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program. At its core, this is a pathway to a U.S. green card that you achieve by making a qualifying investment in a U.S. business, specifically one that creates at least 10 full-time jobs for American workers. The beauty of this? Unlike the H-1B, it requires absolutely no employer sponsor. It completely bypasses the lottery system, and it puts you, the applicant, firmly in the driver's seat.
Now, taking control does require serious capital. As of 2026, the minimum investment sits at $800,000 for a targeted employment area. So think rural or high unemployment regions. If you look outside of those areas, it jumps to over $1 million. And while that is undeniably steep for senior executives or folks who can utilize family funds, it is a direct, employer-independent path that also doubles as a genuine business investment.
Moving to Section 4. H-1B versus EB-5 showdown, a direct comparison. Let's impartially map out how these two distinct legal pathways stack up against each other.
When you look at them side by side, the contrast is pretty stark. The H-1B remains deeply employer-dependent and subject to that new wage-weighted lottery, while the EB-5 is entirely self-directed with zero lottery. Yes, the EB-5 requires a massive financial investment, where the H-1B requires none at all, but consider the job risk side of things. With EB-5, there is no terrifying 60-day grace period hanging over your head. Plus, and this is huge, an EB-5 spouse receives derivative permanent residency, which is a massive step up from the highly conditional work authorization of an H-4 visa.
Section 5. Process and risks. The reality check. Because before anyone makes a decision like this, we really need to ground ourselves in the rigorous realities and the financial risks involved.
Look, this is not a quick fix. It is a multi-year marathon. It kicks off with a 1 to 3 month project selection and due diligence phase. Then, you have to meticulously document your funds, file your I-526E petition, and wait on a USCIS review that currently averages around 32 to 33 months. After you finally get a conditional green card and fulfill a 2-year residency, you file to remove those conditions. So, from start to absolute finish, you are looking at a 5 to 8+ year timeline.
But timing here is absolutely critical. Filing on or before September 30, 2026 ensures your petition is protected under the EB-5 Reform and Integrity Act. Basically, this means your petition has to be processed to completion even if the whole program faces legislative changes in 2027. Plus, getting it in before 2027 helps you beat the automatic inflation adjustments that are scheduled to hike up those minimum investment amounts.
We cannot sugarcoat the risks here. Thoroughly vetting this process is non-negotiable. Proving that your funds are lawful requires a crazy rigorous 5-year trace. Furthermore, if your chosen project faces financial defaults or just fails to create those 10 required jobs, your petition is going to sink. Because of this long timeline and the super strict requirements, having qualified legal and financial professionals in your corner is an absolute must.
So, a super common question we get, do you have to choose one or the other? Can you pursue the H-1B and the EB-5 simultaneously? The answer is yes. Many attorneys actually recommend a dual-track strategy. You can maintain your income and your status through your H-1B while your EB-5 processes quietly in the background. If you're inside the U.S. on an H-1B, you can even file to adjust your status once your EB-5 is approved without ever leaving the country.
While the EB-5 definitely isn't the right fit for everyone, those of you facing a century-long wait or the daily terror of a 60-day grace period might be viewing it in a completely new light. When the system shifts this drastically, how are you going to respond? If the era of the easy H-1B is truly over, what price are you willing to put on certainty? And what will the immigration landscape of tomorrow demand from the global talent of today? Food for thought.